All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the LN NAUG Monthly Webinar Series. My name is Joey Pasierbowicz, Education and Engagement Director, and your host for today's presentation titled, Learn How Progress Rail Gain Visibility into Every Stage of Their Direct Material PO Lifecycle. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that due to the upcoming holiday season, this will be our final webinar of 2023. But rest assured, we have some great content lined up for you next year and look forward to hitting the ground running in January. Oh, and one more thing, in case you haven't heard, it's official. Our 2024 face-to-face annual meeting is happening in Naperville on May 14th through May 16th for the second year running. That's right, face-to-face 2024 will be a 3-day event for the first time in its history. You spoke and we listened. The 2024 face-to-face is going to be an upgraded experience that will include more customer-focused content, breakout tracks, networking opportunities, and so much more. Registration will be opening soon, so please stay tuned for updates and make sure to have your date saved for May 14th through May 16th. As always, today's session will be recorded and posted on the community page at lnnaug.org. Also, if you have any questions during our presentation, please feel free to send them in the webinar chat or float them during Q&A breaks throughout the session. Today, the LN North America user group would like to welcome Robin Vanderwell, IT Support Manager for Progress Rail, Michael Malthaner, Senior Solution Consultant for SourceDay, and I'm sorry, I have Colby here, but Colby Young with SourceDay as well. They're teaming up to discuss how Robin and his supply chain team, Progress Rail, have been able to leverage SourceDay to better manage their direct material purchase orders. So, Robin, Michael, Colby, good morning and welcome to the monthly webinar series.
Very good. Thank you for that intro and really appreciate everyone being here today. I know it's an investment to give us an hour and appreciate your time and attention. We're excited to talk to you about how Progress Rail, a Caterpillar company, really gained visibility into every stage of the direct material PO lifecycle for every purchase order. Quick intros. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I'm VP of our alliances. I've been with SourceDay for about 8 years. Worked with a number of different organizations from different industries, and Robin and Progress Rail are really a great example of a SourceDay success story. Michael Malthaner will be showing you all a product demonstration. That'll be more towards the end of this webinar, so you get a little eyes on the solution. And then Robin, really appreciate your time here today. We'll be doing an interview with Robin to really understand kind of how their tech stack looks, how they were doing things pre-SourceDay, benefits of SourceDay, really kind of his story. So we'll get to hear from Robin quite a bit later on in the webinar. Before we get to that interview, I'm going to go over a little bit of kind of who SourceDay is, where we fit, the problems we're solving, so you all can really get your head around of the benefits that we provide manufacturing organizations. So these are some statistics that may or may not be surprising to you, but they're the norm that everyone's dealing with. So first here is 52%. 52% of all purchase orders change, and that's data straight out of SourceDay. It represents, I think, 13 or 14 million purchase orders that have gone through our solution, and over half of all of them need to be adjusted. And that's just the reality of a supply chain disruptive world that we all live in right now and try to manage. And there's no technology out there that's going to stop these changes from happening, right? Short shipments are just going to happen. Date changes, price changes is just the nature of the world we live in. However, technology can help you manage this change. Living in, I'll call for we're about to be in 2024, to manage your supplier network and all these changes with email spreadsheets and phone calls, and I'll call that kind of sticks and stones. So there's technology to help manage this statistic. 33% of parts are late. This is about standard across the manufacturing industry. Some of course are better than 33% late, some of course are worse. But just from an average standpoint, late deliveries are part of the world you all live in, right? No one's 100% on time. However, technology can help you get better, improve your on-time delivery rates. But just as important of that, technology can help you have the visibility into which items are going to be late and by how much they're going to be late. So you can plan for it, you can schedule for it, right? You can make the proper adjustments. You can proactively plan for late deliveries instead of being reactive. 40% of invoices do not match your purchase order and your receipt. Invoice processing is a huge pain when your data is wrong. However, when your data is right, it can be a pretty light touch process where you have a high, what's called first pass match rate, right? Purchase order matches receipt, matches invoice on that first try. So the data integrity on your purchase orders is crucial to help improve this statistic. Let me go to the next slide here. There we go. So what is technology that can help here, right? What are these benefits exactly? So SourceDay bilaterally integrates with LN. We have a pre-built solution integration that is specific for LN, developed by LN partners of ours, collaborated with them on all best practices around LN integration and data fields and mechanisms. And what we're able to do is pick up the purchase orders when they're in a approved status, pull them into SourceDay, digitize them, and deliver every purchase order to all of your suppliers and make sure that you have the visibility that it was delivered, that it was open, that it was engaged upon, and provide different engagement models for suppliers to interact with you, to make sure that every order is seen, acknowledged, and collaborated through the life cycle of that purchase order. And as those updates change and you approve them, we're updating that data back into LN automatically. No more manual data entry. Michael will show you a lot of this in the demonstration, but just wanted to high level discuss the way this integration works. And the big why here is making sure that LN is accurate and real time with all of your open purchase order data, dates, quantity, and price. What that's going to do for you, better decision making. When you have that accurate real-time data, you're going to have, if you're running MRP, APS, maybe you're doing it in a spreadsheet, however you're trying to plan and schedule your demand and supply chain planning, you're going to be able to rely on that information being accurate, up to date, real time. Strategic planning, maybe inventory turns is a strategy for you this year or in 2024. Well, one way to be able to do that is have a tighter supply chain and hold less safety stock, have better on-time delivery rates, trust that supply chain to hold a little bit less inventory, help your turns. SourceDay does just that with our customers. Enhanced data accuracy, again, removing the human element of having to update all that information just reduces errors and gives the whole organization trust that what's in LN is the latest and greatest information. What you're doing inventory projections on is right. CFOs are always looking at when is my inventory going to hit my dock? Well, if you think it's going to hit in December, but it's really hitting in January, now you're accounting for holding costs in the wrong year altogether. So hugely important to have all that data accuracy granular in LN on your open inventory orders to make sure you can plan, forecast appropriately. And then we talked about that late deliveries, right? Proactive collaboration with your suppliers allows you to proactively set expectations with your customers. If you are going to have something late, there's going to be a delay. Make sure your customers know. Make sure you don't get burned by a customer needing an order, needing an update, and you don't know what's going on. Huge, huge benefit of making sure that every order you have the visibility and latest and greatest information. I know hitting y'all with a lot. If you have questions throughout this, right, pop them into the chat. We'll be monitoring. If it's a timely question, we'll interrupt, answer it then, or we'll certainly answer all questions at the end of this when we have a full Q&A. So how do we do this? where the little green dot here in the middle explodes into this situation for our customers. So what we're doing, like I mentioned, bilaterally integrated with LN, and we provide suppliers the engagement model that they want to work with. Wherever they are in their technology journey or their technology change tolerances, we support that. We have the ability to support them just via emails. So if you have a supplier that they likes their emails, they've been doing it for 35 years that way, they're not going to change, great. They can receive the purchase orders via SourceDay via email. They can acknowledge straight from the email. And Michael's going to show you this interactive PO that allows them to collaborate without a login, without an account. There's really no training even needed. It's straight from an email. We have a very robust platform, or you can think of it as supplier portal. Michael will give you some visibility into this in the demo as well. We've been innovating on this for about 10 years, all customer driven feedback. We have about, I think, 15,000 suppliers that use SourceDay's platform every single day. For your more high volume suppliers, right? Suppliers that embrace technology, they want a better way to manage their day to day and give you information instead of emails and spreadsheets. And that's what's perfect for the platform. We also, for those high volume suppliers that want to transact via EDI, maybe they have EDI capabilities already. Maybe they've even asked you, hey, we have EDI. Can we just connect via EDI to get your POs in as sales orders? Great. We can offer that now. We can provide EDI calls directly into their system, pick up their EDI documents, and that comes back into SourceDay as just a normal update. So what we're providing for your procurement team is one place, SourceDay, unified supplier collaboration, to see all your purchase orders, all your updates, whether it's an email, platform, or EDI, and then we're updating LN as you accept changes. That's kind of high level. Michael's going to show you the demo of some of this, high level demo, get your eyes on the solution a little bit. But this is kind of the next generation SourceDay is 100% PO delivery across all of your suppliers. All right, so we'll keep cruising along, and now we'll get to the fun part. I'm going to stop talking about SourceDay, and we're going to really bring in Robin. Robin, we appreciate you being on today. I know it's you're busy as well. Everyone's we're entering the holiday season, so thank you for being on. Before we get into some of the questions, I'd love to allow you to introduce yourself, a little bit about Progress Rail, and any background you want to provide about yourself and your organization.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm the cause for a 2-week delay in this. I couldn't speak 2 weeks ago, so I apologize for that. But my name's Robin Vanderwell. I'm in charge of IT support for our supply chain solutions, and SourceDay is one of those for our that handles a lot of the direct spend related POs and invoices. And I'm part of a larger IT organization where we support sort of we're the technology in the rail industry, which is an old industry. We produce locomotives. We have rail cars. We do the infrastructure piece as well. Progress Rail touches anything from the ground to what's on the rails. And it's kind of interesting. I've been with Progress Rail since 2019, and I actually joined when we started embarking on this journey with SourceDay. So I've been working with SourceDay since Progress Rail started with them.
Awesome. So it sounds like 2019 is when you began the partnership with SourceDay.
That's correct.
Perfect. So, many years, awesome to have, you, Robin, and your organization as a longtime customer. Thank you for that. What does your ERP setup look like? Any specific customizations or tech stacks that you want to share with the team today or the audience?
Well, what we have is we actually have multiple ERPs, and that's part of the reason why SourceDay was a great solution, being ERP agnostic. We could utilize it for the various ERPs we currently are using throughout the world. But our focus, as far as LN is concerned, we have LN 10.4 and 10.7 sites in North America, and we also have an instance of 10.4 in Brazil. And we're just expanding the usage of SourceDay throughout those. I would say that I don't know if you want to get in the details of how things are structured, but basically SourceDay, of course, lives outside of our environment, our firewall. So the way that the communication happens, it actually goes to an IIS server, which lives within the firewall, which is where the SourceDay API lives. And then that communicates through the C4WS server to LN.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, Robin. I know there's a lot of IT folks on, so getting into some of that nitty gritty, I'm sure they love to hear that. So Robin, pre-Source Day, what were your needs on the direct side, direct spend side, right? So all your supply chain inventory, being on the IT side of things, were you hearing specific things? Were you seeing specific things? Can you talk to us about what those direct spend needs were before Source Day?
Yeah, I think that the main needs that we had was really improving the overall collaboration with the suppliers through PO acknowledgement, changes, and rejection workflows to make sure that those POs were captured properly. And as much of a real-time communication as possible, which would in turn improve efficiency for our buyers and planners.
Mm-hmm. The collaboration word you said is crucial, right? It's one thing to just provide visibility of information, right, to your vendor, or just showing data, sending data, but it's the actual collaboration, right? Accept, reject. Why are these things changing? So that's I'm glad you used that word, because that's certainly why SourceDay exists, and what makes us very unique is providing an actual collaboration mechanism.
Yeah.
So Robin, can you talk a little bit about, what was going on at Progress Rail that ultimately triggered your investment in SourceDay? Was there a tipping point? Was there an event? What kind of ultimately made that decision for you?
Well, I would say it happened before I joined the company, but I think supply chain was really looking for a solution to improve that and capture all that. So since they were working in multiple ERPs, they weren't communicating with each other. SourceDay provided that platform that we could communicate the POs across our organization to those suppliers versus having them be handled independently.
Got it. So tons of manual process. And I guess, can you speak towards a little bit of what some of those problems were causing to the organization?
I think, like anything, if you're not having good communication, you're going to have shipments that are delayed. You're going to have or shipments that are incorrect. There's like changes that happen. What if supplier didn't see the email or didn't get the call from the buyer or planner, and they went ahead and shipped it, and we didn't need it yet? So that causes all kinds of additional problems.
Yeah. And we actually have a question here from Gina, and it actually leads perfectly into the discussion is, how do you measure the value SourceDay provides? Gina's specific question is, what sort of business improvements are you seeing in your business? How did you justify the investment?
Yeah, that's always a tough question because there's so many intangibles. I'd say just seeing performance improvements by suppliers, reduced errors in delivery, and something that's very hard to measure is buyer and planner efficiency, and how many POs can they now process that they didn't have to worry about because it's more automated. They don't have to get those acknowledgments from the from the suppliers. They get acknowledged automatically in SourceDay and uploaded in the ERP. So those are some of those cost savings, but most of them are very hard and intangible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question, great answer to that. And you're right. It's some of those efficiencies are hard to put a dollar amount on. You know, the quote here is 3 hours of each planner's, buyer's daily workload. So when you think about scaling an organization, being able to kind of, do more with less, right? Just like you said, how many more POs can they manage? Gina asked a follow-up question kind of in line is, were you able to reduce staffing in your procurement team is her question. And, again, it's, or maybe reallocate resources could be another question in line with that.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, we've been able to reallocate resources and provide focus on more strategic items for those buyers and planners, and really improve the overall efficiency, not just the collaboration with the supplier, but also internally by doing that. We've recently had a reorg within the supply chain side, so I don't know if that resulted in any reduction in, or just reallocating those resources to specific areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what, we see a lot is with that time back, it's like what all amazing strategic profit-driven things that could be done with 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day is significant if it's have more vendor reviews, negotiate better pricing, and really also just giving them maybe some more satisfying work, right? Than chasing acknowledgments and doing manual data entry.
Yeah.
Um, so along the value, you mentioned y'all are expanding to other locations, different ERPs. How do you plan to get even more value out of SourceDay? Is there kind of a roadmap strategic plan with SourceDay to help continue with your business?
Yeah, I think that change is hard, right? So change is probably what we've been fighting. Change management is what we've been fighting all this time. So it really has required a top-down requirement of everyone to get involved with SourceDay. And by doing that, we have the new head of procurement has basically said, look, we have SourceDay, everyone's going to use it. We expect all our suppliers to use it in one form or another. As you had mentioned earlier, Colby, you've got those different roads that they can use SourceDay and apply SourceDay. And so I think that having that sort of that edict come down has been very helpful. And so it doesn't mean that change isn't hard still. It just means now change is mandatory.
Yep. Yep. That's true. Change is hard. Having kind of an organizational buy-in for change, right, is super important. Having kind of top down, like you said, even kind of, vertical influence to make sure everyone is bought in. Like any technology, the worst thing you want is something to become shelfware, right? So that everyone is going to utilize it to make sure that that value is captured. So I know you mentioned a little bit about the integration, but could you speak a little bit more, since I know we do have a lot of IT folks on, is there anything more about SourceDay and how it integrates to LN, and then maybe talk a little bit about that implementation process, working with our team, and what that project period looked like?
Well, I think that's one area we utilize web services, and sort of what I said before. They come sort of the data out of the database, out of the ERP. The calls come in to pull that information into SourceDay. So SourceDay pulls in all PO information, whether or not they are onboarded suppliers or not. And then for those onboarded suppliers, they can acknowledge a PO, and that automatically through the web service, through the connection back into the ERP, will update the PO. So it's been a good, I think it's been a good learning thing for both SourceDay and Progress Rail, as we have matured now to implementing more web services for our applications that we use. And SourceDay was one of the first. And so we've had some growing pains in that, but I think it was a longer process than I think SourceDay thought at first. But it's been successful. I believe that we are continuing to enhance the sort of the handshake between LN and SourceDay to make sure that the data in SourceDay is as accurate as what LN has. And in turn, we've been able to clean up some of our data because SourceDay ends up seeing some of the data that does need to be cleaned up. So there's multiple improvements happening that we didn't even realize would be part of this.
Yeah, that data cleanup, it's just, so much data in ERP, and a lot of it is centered around POs, vendor master, item master, all that PO data. Some folks have open orders from years and years ago that just never got closed out. And right, SourceDay is going to be able to pull that in and provide visibility to all of that. Very good. Well, the last question I have for you, Robin, is really just what advice do you have to secure buy-in from leadership and IT to implement a supply chain collaboration platform like SourceDay? Making decisions can be hard to implement and invest in technology. So any advice you have there?
Well, I think number one, it's communication. Just like SourceDay is a collaborative tool, we need to be collaborative internally between the various stakeholders. So get early buy-in from management that it's a solution that we need to implement, and get all the users to be engaged. Get some champions at the various sites. We're very spread out. So Progress Rail has tons of sites, and so the difficulty was also that much of our implementation happened during the early COVID time. So it was difficult to get together and do face-to-face meetings, and those are very, very helpful. And what we have done with SourceDay at times is pull in teams from SourceDay into to come on site to sit down with the users and really get a better feel for what their needs are versus doing it remotely.
Great. And we did have a question here. Did Progress Rail evaluate any other solution as an alternative Infor Nexus, perhaps? Any specific key capabilities of which SourceDay was selected?
Yeah, we did, as we always, whenever we pursue new solutions, we are always required to look at the different options that are out there. And Infor Nexus was one of those that we looked at. And I think what Progress Rail was really looking at was a partner that would that had a solution that would also look at a long-term partnership in developing and adjusting that solution to meet the needs of Progress Rail. And SourceDay was more flexible from that standpoint, as we hadn't fully defined exactly what we were expecting. And so SourceDay had that flexibility, which Infor Nexus, for example, did not, and others didn't either.
Awesome. Very good. Well, those were all of the questions. Let's see. One more question. Philip, do you receive inputs from logistics suppliers as well? So a good question. I mean, Robin, you can answer. I don't think y'all use any logistics suppliers in SourceDay, but
No, not that I'm aware of. It's all direct spend.
yeah. Yeah, SourceDay, Philip, is built for PO collaboration on your direct spend and the needs that come with collaborating on a direct spend purchase order.
Yeah, we
All
use
right, so
we use Coupa for all our indirect side, so that people know that.
here's a question Gene has asked: did you evaluate Enforce Supplier Exchange?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, from what I understand, Infor Supplier Exchange is a little bit more down market, Infor Nexus a little bit up market, as far as the size of the organization. Awesome, Robin. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time here. There's some other questions coming in. We'll hold those for Q&A. I do want to give Michael time to demonstrate some of the product here. So if you have more questions, please throw them in the chat, and Robin will stick around for Q&A as well. But I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to Michael to get into some product demonstration.
Excellent. All right. Make sure I can do this right. There we go. All right, Colby, can you see that screen okay with the workflow?
Yes. Yep, I can.
Perfect. All right. So here in the next 10, 15 minutes, just going to run through a handful of things that SourceDay offers. Colby already covered this slide earlier, but just want to call out that SourceDay's lived in this platform space for a long time, and now we've opened up those other avenues that Colby detailed earlier. And I'm going to show you what that looks like for the new interactive workflow in the email for our suppliers first and foremost. So we're going to walk through what that looks like, that new aspect of what SourceDay is doing. And then we'll talk about what that actually looks like for the buyer in SourceDay. So how does that ultimately get back to the buyer? They only have one workflow, as you can notice here. So no matter how that supplier is interacting, everything's going back to the buyer in one consolidated fashion. And ultimately, the idea is to get that back into the ERP as cleanly and as timely as possible to make sure things like demand planning, forecasting, and all that can now run appropriately based off of that new and latest and greatest information. From there, we'll run through some of the buyer stuff on their side, how you can manage those updates, how you can have visibility into what's upcoming and going on, as well as to exceptions that your MRP is suggesting. How do you take that from just being a list of manual suggestions that you then have to go and action on your own, and how can SourceDay help make that more of an automated process instead of just going through and manually sourcing those? All right, so that first part of what we want to talk about is what the email looks like for those suppliers. So here you can see a mock-up of what this looks like for our suppliers as they're interacting with their emails and how they're going to be able to use SourceDay without a login. So first and foremost, you can see that they have a notification here in the title of the email, what's going on. So we're constantly checking to the ERP for any new orders or any changes made to existing orders. We'll pick those up and communicate them over to the supplier as they become available. Suppliers will be able to download their PDF just like you would expect them to be able to do today. They'd be able to get that right from the email, see any other details, work with anything else going on that order in one place. And then the real big difference maker here for our suppliers is that not only are they getting that PDF and the information in the body of the email, but they're actually able to get into SourceDay and take action on this without having to have a login. I usually tell folks you can think of this like getting a reminder from the airlines that it's time to check in for your flight. You just see that email, you click on it, you go, you click check in, you're done. Same thing for our suppliers. They click that link in the email, they're brought to SourceDay's interactive purchase order. They can make any suggested changes to price, quantities, or dates, and even give any messaging to back up or give reason for why a suggested change may be occurring. And then right from there, they're able to just automatically accept and acknowledge those changes or the updates from the ERP, and then that passes back to the buyer. If they've made any proposed suggestions to their buyer, that will also flow right back into that buyer's dashboard. So just as Robin was mentioning earlier, this is that automated process for those acknowledgments. Instead of just getting an email from the supplier saying, yes, received or confirmed, acknowledged, whatever that is, when it's just a one-word response back, it makes it a lot easier to actually have a digital timestamp and a list of those orders that have been acknowledged, so you can have confidence that your orders are going to get delivered when they were asked for and for the rate that they were asked for at. So that's just one of the ways that the suppliers can interact with SourceDay. Again, that's that email workflow without a login. They can always log into the platform. We can also support EDI transactions coming back into SourceDay for your buyers to consume. But just want to quickly call out that even if they do have a login, they can always use that interactive PO without the login. So if they're moving quick throughout their day, they just want to get back to you as fast as possible with an acknowledgement, they can still take advantage of that interactive PO, even if they are a login platform user. Now, again, all of this is feeding back into the buyer side. So we're going to give buyers visibility into all of their open purchase orders from the time they're created to the time they're fully received. And we're going to give them updates and allow them to see and manage all of those changes proposed by the suppliers, but also have full visibility into MRP exceptions as well as the life cycle of the PO. So just quickly sliding over there, we can now see on the buyer side or on your side of SourceDay, you have that full visibility into all open purchase orders. Now, if that supplier received the email or got the PO in their portal, they'd be able to take that action as you saw, provide an update, make a change to price, quantity, or date. And that's all going to come to the buyer within their updates tab. So what that means for buyers is instead of having to sort through their emails, look for changes and find those, and then ultimately pull up ERP, pull up the PO PDF, pull up all these different things to try to evaluate the change. Now with SourceDay, we consolidate those changes into one place because we're giving the list of all the vendors across all the POs down to the line level. So we're highlighting those specific lines so that your users can now manage by exception, as opposed to looking at an entire PO and trying to sort and filter through the noise just to get to the change that's actually on one line. So ultimately what that ends up looking like for your team is that they're now able to compare apples to apples side by side within SourceDay. So they're able to say, okay, what's currently on the order within my ERP versus what does that look like from the supplier? And SourceDay is clearly calling out and highlighting in red where they've suggested a change. So now your users don't have to guess, hey, is this the latest change? Maybe there's another email down further in my email that has a different change on it that I've missed. We're giving them the latest and greatest right here so they can compare that exactly against what's in ERP currently so they can make better and faster business decisions. Typically, your buyers are going to have to do this one by one as well today. They're getting the change in the email, reviewing it, going back into ERP, manually making that change to the PO, then sending that all the way back over to the vendor. It's just cumbersome. So even if they're moving fast, it's just a slow process. So what we do is not only make the evaluation process of that change easier, but we also give buyers the ability to work in bulk. So if I was one of your buyers and these are some of our POs, I could just grab all of these and say, yep, you know what, those are immaterial, they look fine, I just want to accept all of them. I can bulk accept all 17 of those changes across multiple vendors, across multiple purchase orders, and then confirm that. And what that ultimately does, and where we see some of that time savings that Robin was talking about, is now, once we confirm this, we write that back in real time to the ERP, update all those POs across multiple vendors, across multiple PO lines, and we also notify the vendor of the change and give them a new copy of their PO. So you don't have to do anything except click 2 buttons and accept 17 different changes across the board. So that's really where we can feed a lot of time back into buyers' days to be more strategic or to be utilized in different areas. Now we know that you're not always just going to flat out accept everything that comes across your desk. So you may look at some of these and review them and scroll through them and say, you know what, I'm not okay with this change here. Maybe I was okay with the first one, but this one doesn't look good. You can propose back to your suppliers. So you have, again, that side-by-side comparison of what's currently on the PO versus what that supplier is proposing. And maybe we can try to meet them somewhere middle on the price here. I started at $19, they moved it up to 21. Maybe we can agree more on the 20. And that date clearly isn't going to work. It's in the past. So let's kick that out to next year. Whatever that looks like for you, you have the ability to make counter proposals to their changes. And then ultimately, the reason I show you this is because now when you confirm a proposed, as opposed to an accepting, we will actually send that back to the supplier and ask them to accept on their end. So we're only feeding good data and agreed upon data back into the ERP. Again, as you think about demand planning, MRP, all of that, it only operates off good data. So we would only want to inject good data back in. And speaking on MRP, once it runs and it makes suggestions to those existing POs, those changes are going to come from you, right? So what we've just covered is that suppliers are sending in changes and you're evaluating changes from the supplier. But what about when that MRP does run and says, hey, you need to cancel this PO or move one out or move one in? We can consume those exceptions from your ERP and then allow you to make those suggestions over to your suppliers and ask them if that's something they're willing to do. So it takes that just flat out data and makes it more actionable that you can share automatically. So for me, as someone who used to be a buyer, I would look at this and I would first say, okay, I have about $1 million that we don't even need anymore as an organization. So let me focus on that. Let me see my cancellations. Now, instead of this just being a list of suggested cancellations, I can request this change directly over to my supplier and even send them a note, please cancel if they can. Keep it simple. So that way, SourceDay is actually going to suggest this change over to my supplier, ask them if they can. If they agree, we'll close out that line and close it within the ERP. So now we are not receiving inventory that's just going to end up collecting dust on the shelf. So it's a great way for me to make that, again, data actionable, but also save my organization money by not having a bunch of information and a bunch of items out there that we just don't need. So this is a great way to make that MRP more real, not only to yourself and internally, but also to those vendors and make it more of a tool that can save you money. Now we're managing all this back and forth, all this collaboration with the suppliers, but you'll also have visibility into just the life cycle of the PO. And what I mean by that is as orders are approaching their due dates, as we're working through this and trying to achieve getting shipped the order on time, we have some different tools in place. And I just want to quickly highlight one, which is our radar feature. And that's really going to make life easier for you because you get to tell us the parameter for your vendors. Say, a domestic supplier, maybe 2 weeks. I just want to alert them 2 weeks out from their due date. You can do that. Maybe an international supplier, it's more like 6 months. Whatever that looks like for your organization, you can set this radar parameter on a vendor by vendor basis. It will automatically pull those orders into your radar and notify the supplier that they're approaching their due date and need to be shipping soon in order to achieve that agreed upon due date. So this is a proactive approach, a gentle tap on the shoulder, just to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Supplier, are we still good? Is there any last minute changes you need to make me aware of before things fall late on my end and then I have angry customers yelling at me because I wasn't able to deliver what we promised them? So it's a great way to get out ahead of some of those changes, as well as make sure you can have confidence and your organization can have confidence in your purchase orders. Now, the last aspect that I want to quickly cover is just data, right? We're tracking a lot of back and forth with you and your suppliers, managing that collaboration, managing those updates, just having the ability to track things and make sure they come in on time. Well, all that back and forth feeds into our 4 main KPIs here that we give you out of the box. You'll see just a quick overview on each of these, but you'll see that we're able to mark your on time and in full deliveries. Gray bar across the middle there is your baseline, so you can compare yourself year over year, just to make sure, again, everything's coming in when you ask for it. One next to that is one most folks do end up asking us about because everybody wants to know how often prices are changing on their POs, and ultimately, what does that look like to my impact on my bank account? So we want to make that a clear and easy way to break that down and see it. And then the last 2 are really focused on dates. How often are my dates being moved in and moved out by me, my team internally, or by my vendor? Who's making those changes and where can I address that issue or maybe correct some of my actual lead times to make sure I'm giving them the POs on time? And then the last one here is going to be a global map, but each one of these dots represents a delivery location you have set up within your ERP. And we're essentially telling you, based on the dates on your PO, are you achieving the lead times we would expect to see? And we can tell you that, and you are able to break it down even further. And what I mean by break it down further is you'll see that each one of these charts has a little drill in button here at the top right. So you can drill in, slice and dice these further. And on this one in particular, you can break it down by location, by vendor, or by item. So it's a great way, again, for each of these, you can get as granular as you want, be able to see what's going on, find the root cause of whatever issues out there, and address it at the source and move forward with that being corrected. So we not only want to help you manage your purchase orders on the front end and make it easy for you to collaborate with your vendors, we also want to give you actionable insights that you can see here that'll make your life easier and also help your team grow and expand that purchasing department. All right, Colby, is
Hey,
there anything
Michael.
else you
Yeah, there was a question. How do you look at the list of information by buyer if you have many buyers? So maybe jump to the PO view and just kind of show how a buyer list works there.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're tracking the buyers from the POs as they're being pulled in. So you'll see that data field here. So you'll always be able to see who's the responsible buyer. And then we give you a quick and easy sort and filter here at the top. So say I'm a supervisor, I want to see everybody's POs. I'm able to do that. Or if I'm, just Blair, my name's Blair today, and I just want to see my orders, I can do that. And maybe as Blair, I'm also covering for Casey. So I can pick and choose which orders I see and then filter the entire list down by that to make sure I'm honing in on the right things. That also feeds into something Robin said as well about the multiple ERPs that are out there. If you have multiple sites, multiple ERPs, we can also add in filters for those. So that way your team, if they're buying for one specific subsidiary or something like that, we can also narrow down that view to make sure everyone's focused on the things that they're supposed to be focused on.
Great.
Other
So we have 10 minutes left. We are going to enter our Q&A. Well, here's a question. Here we go. What about different divisions and if I do not want to share data between them? So I believe, Michael, you can lock down users just to see their division. Different users can see multiple divisions. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that sites that I just pulled up and showed you, you can limit users by those sites. So if you have that broken out by your divisions, then yes, you can limit them just to see what they need to see.
Great question. Very good. Well, we have about 9 minutes for Q&A. So we have one question already in here that I will go ahead and ask, and it's for you, Robin. Does Progress Rail have any use cases for supply chain visibility tier 2 suppliers? So supplier's supplier. So I believe the question is, have you thought about trying to get visibility from your supplier into their supplier network? Am I understanding that correct, Ram? I don't know if he's, go ahead, Robin.
I would go ahead, and we don't have that kind of visibility through SourceDay to be able to see what our suppliers are doing, but we do utilize other Progress Rail sites that are suppliers, let's say, for components of our locomotive, and they use SourceDay on the supplier end, and then in turn they also have suppliers within SourceDay that they can then so we have visibility from that standpoint, but not beyond, not our direct suppliers and their suppliers.
Yeah, SourceDay connects your organization to your supplier network. It doesn't then go another layer to give you visibility into what's happening on your supplier's orders with theirs. Now, we do have plenty of customers who have suppliers right there. They're our customer. They work with their supplier network, and then some of their suppliers are on SourceDay with their supplier network. That absolutely is the case within SourceDay, but you don't have kind of that extended visibility in SourceDay. We have a question here. We have a couple coming in, so keep them coming in. Maybe, Michael, while I read this, you could pull it up. Can you show us the supplier view of SourceDay? Which is a good question because it's the exact same as the buyer view, which is great. And while you're pulling that up, here's a question. Hopefully Robin, you can answer this, or Michael, you might have some knowledge on this. Do we need ERPs to be on cloud or, oh, excuse me, I know this as well. Do we need ERPs to be on cloud, or can it work with on-prem cloud combinations? Are all features same available? So the answer is yes. SourceDay works with cloud versions and on-prem versions. All of the features are the exact same across a cloud version of an ERP or an on-prem version of an ERP. Any nuances are just if there's specific customizations, maybe the integration timeline is a little bit longer for on-prem than cloud, but we support all of those different versions.
And just to quickly highlight, Colby, can you see the screen okay, the supplier side there?
Yes.
I don't trust my WebEx skills, so just want to make sure. But what we can see here for y'all who asked, that you have the ability on the supplier side and see what they're looking at. As Colby mentioned, it's basically the exact same thing because we want you to be able to speak the same language as your suppliers. You know, we want to eliminate that manual communication of email, spreadsheets, and phone calls, but every now and then you're still going to pick up the phone and have a conversation. So if you were to say, hey, you know, we got a new order in our radar that just popped up, can you go and reconfirm that? They're going to know exactly what you're talking about because they have a radar on their side. They're going to know what that functionality means. They'll be able to jump right to it as opposed to going and digging through their email or looking in their ERP for that information. They'll be able just to source that, give you an answer, and everybody moves on faster than they would.
Good. Some questions here since they're seeing more of the platform, which is great. And we do just have 5 minutes. It's what is in the shipments tab on the supplier side. So maybe we can talk a little bit about shipments. And before you do, for everybody on here, if you are interested in seeing more of the solution, talking directly with Michael, some of our account executives, you know, we are here to support you. So you can reach out directly to me, Michael, contact us on our website. We're here to give you all that information. We can talk about shipments real quick, Michael.
Yeah, just briefly. So we will obviously be prompting your suppliers to give us confirmations, acknowledgments, updates, all that. But we're also pushing them to the end where they're going to tell us, hey, an order's been shipped or is ready to be shipped. So for that supplier, when they ship orders, they're going to have a full list of everything that they've shipped and be able to provide that information to their customers. So ultimately what that means is as a supplier here, I can see what I've shipped and I can see until it's been fully received by y'all where it is in flight, because we have live tracking of our tracking numbers. And then we also have this same tab within the side of the buyer. So the buyer can see all of their open shipments that are coming to them and can plan things like resource allocation for the warehouse accordingly based on what should be showing up and when it should be hitting their docks. There's a lot more to this. I'm just going to keep it short and sweet there, but hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. No, it did. And we're, coming up on time. We have just 4 minutes. The question here is, there's a lot of questions coming in. Can you show us how SourceDay ingests the PDF/Excel file coming from suppliers back to buyers and any updates it does? I'm assuming that's on the interactive PO. So the way that works is any of those updates that are triggered on that interactive PO are brought into SourceDay the exact same way if they did it in the solution. And so they come across as an updates on the buyer side. So we're just picking that up via the email interactive PO just as a normal update. The supplier can also import an Excel file and we'll pick up all of those changes and updates as well in the interface. Question here, can the existing PO formats specific to certain suppliers remain the same? Any concerns with supplier adoption? So Robin, why don't you answer the last question, any concerns with supplier adoption? And then Michael, maybe you know the answer, can the existing PO format specific to certain suppliers remain the same?
Which part first?
If you want to go ahead, Robin, I think that's maybe the more important one here.
I think supplier adoption, it's like anything. I really like what SourceDay has done to sort of reduce the ways that suppliers can say, oh, we can't participate. Well, you've been getting an email all along. Why can't you just reply to that email, right? So I think that that's really the area where I see supplier adoption increasing. So those that are willing to log in, they've already done it. You also have the EDI solution coming up. So that'll be another one for those larger players that don't want to log in. They're not going to follow up on each email, but they do want to have connectivity. So I think the concerns from the supplier are reducing.
And I would say on the first question, it would be something I would want to know a little bit more before just giving an answer to. We can absolutely discuss that further though, and know a little bit more about how you're using different forms for different suppliers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Awesome. Well, we're right at time. Michael, can you throw up that last slide if you have it, just with contact information, or I can?
Yep.
Either way, if
Give
you
me
want to
one
stop.
second.
Yep. Yeah, go to the very end.
Yeah, 1 second. Sorry.
All good. I just want to show my contact information. If anyone wants to get in contact with us directly, you can reach out to me. I'm Colby Young. There's my email, colby.young@sourceday.com. You can go to our website, do a contact us. But we would love to hear from you. We'd love to show you more of the product, talk to you directly about your business, learn about your workflows. We can get deeper into the product with you. So please reach out if you want to learn more. We're here to help you, and hopefully we'll be hearing from you. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Colby. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining.